Sonic Speed! Let's go!
Hello, Super Mario T here, and when it comes to creating topics for discussion or arguments, sometimes they can be really toxic. Like, I love creating some of them from time to time because they can be open for discussion, seeing the side of every corner, they can be open to interesting minds, etc. But if there's any reason for me to hate creating them sometimes, there's one. Technically two. People who defend something and people who hate something. That's a little vague, I know, but if you're an avid YouTube watcher, someone who loves scrolling through comments or seeing some people of a community get all pissy over what someone feels, you know damn well what I'm talking about. I mean, those defenders who constantly ride up haters' asses with trying to stand up for a specific topic and even slander and shame you with something completely irrelevant while trying to make themselves feel good and look good when they do pretty much the opposite. And those haters who constantly ride up defenders' asses, trying to immediately shut down the defender's position and point of view, and even shame them in the same vein of defenders shaming haters. There is no better person among these if they can't construct a solid argument / point of view, or go 5 minutes without finding some irrelevance to support their argument and look superior, let alone accepting someone's point of view. Being an avid Paper Mario fan, especially recently, makes this pretty common. Forget me doing videos on them, but this applies to literally anything you could think of. Food, religions, movies, entertainment, politics, I mean anything at all that has a following. From personal experience, I find more irrational defenders than haters for not being able to accept those opinions, but just because I experience something, that doesn't mean everyone else will experience the same thing. There are multiple sides to every story. Everyone's had their fair share of bad defenders and bad haters. I have proof for this, but like I said, there are at least two sides to every story, and if there's enough evidence to go off of within the stance you take, then it should be acceptable and understandable. If not, and you just blindly hate or blindly defend, then you're gonna look and feel like a dumbass. But how are they toxic? We'll start from a hater's perspective, since I'm most associated with those according to strangers who watch me. Example? I'm sorry, don't kill me. I'm sorry, oh my god, don't dislike and sub, oh my fuck. So, exactly what kind of hatred blooms with Color Splash? The fact that Sticker Star 2, the stale battle system, the bland characters and such, which I've said 75 times. They're weighing whether it should be worth the purchase, if it looks appealing to them or not, is it worth the time for it, from all they've seen from the games, etc. Which is supported for an argument, but most defenders don't give a shit about that. They think you're a thousand-year-door fanboy no matter what, who does nothing but complain. They say you can't judge a game without buying / playing it, you just want a sequel and claim you get easily triggered. They make assumptions and stereotype. Am I a Super Paper Mario fanboy too? Is that a trend? Because I love Super. I guess I'm a fanboy for that game too. But then there are defenders who defend Color Splash saying it looks beautiful. The game has a bunch of good writing, it teeps better than Sticker Star, they say how much the game improved, how it's not as bad as people say, it's funny, the characters are better than Sticker Star, etc. Which is supported for an argument. But the haters don't care either. They think you're 12 and wouldn't tell quality if it hit you in the face. They call you stupid or shameful and shame you for your preferences. They make quick assumptions and stereotype. How many times did I talk about Paper Mario? Let's do something else. Being a YouTuber. Now how does this apply? Simply from your viewers and supporters. How your audience handles your videos and comments on them. They love your videos and they agree. They disagree because they give you valid reasoning on how you're wrong in one way or another, or they give constructive criticism. Or you have those who just hate because they call you autistic, they call you white, derogatory things, etc. without much explanation on why. Basically your tip-of-the-mill hater, which every YouTuber has and or will get. It is what it is, and it sucks. Because pretty much most of my popular videos revolve around ranting, I'm now perceived as a negative YouTuber who does nothing but rant. But here's where the misinformation comes into play. Because before this video, I have 118 videos on my channel, and literally 6 of them are actual rants. The only reason I'm growing as I am now is because most of those videos, as well as a couple others on my channel, they do so freaking well for a channel scratching 3,000 subs. Calling me negative isn't misinformation and just false. Apparently ranting about something makes you a negative YouTuber. What a lovely stereotype. And since I just use invalid hate as an example, what's my example for invalid defense? I guess you could say guilty pleasure within games, like Shark Tale the movie and Spyro Enter the Dragonfly. That's one of my guilty pleasures for movies and guilty pleasures for games. They're severely flawed, they're bad, but even then, I still love them. At least for a time being, I did. It's poor reasoning and evidence, but simply my opinion and how I feel. Maybe nostalgia-based even. However, some take that too far and use that as an argument even if it's just an opinion-based and look like a selfish dick in doing so. Those kinds of defenders perceive others as crazy or illogical. Not as common, but an apparent stereotype. See why I'm emphasizing stereotype in the sound of my voice? That's the key component here. Communities who hate and defend love to stereotype others. They love making widely held but fixed and oversimplified images or ideas of particular types of people or things, based on how you feel, how they look, who you're associated with, what they do, how you act, etc. They either make up and or use stereotypes and often use that as a means to slander people. This is what happens with followings, and it's ridiculous. It just goes to show how little people really know about the topic, let alone the person they're stereotyping. But what's also ridiculous is the sheer idiocy of others who simply screw off others because they hate that you hate or love or feel a certain way about a certain thing. You know, the actual definable butthurt toxic follower that's uneducated, uninspired, and childish. Like how I don't like Color Splash's direction and someone simply types, fuck you. How people feel about some Nintendo games in a reasonable yet negative way, and other fans will exclaim, Nintendo's the best, shut the fuck up, or something like that. How I feel about certain shows or movies, you get physically shamed for doing so despite having absolutely nothing to do with the topic. How someone sees Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton in any sort of way whatsoever in any detail, and no matter what, you'll instantly get shit from one side and or the other. Basically the real definition of an uneducated narcissistic hater. That's one of the main reasons why politics is so goddamn terrible to talk about. Cause I very briefly brought up Trump and Paper Mario surrounding nostalgia, that video I made a couple months ago. And this one guy in that same video started giving me shit for thinking about Trump in a certain way, and we went back and forth, and I kept stating why, while he had little proof to back it up. One of his facts he brought up was racist, how blacks commit more crime, and I said the fact itself is racist. And he automatically thought I called him racist. Was lashing out my anger onto him, despite giving my thoughts and reasons, shut me out, called me stupid, and disabled the replies. Why is it not on screen? Because he deleted the whole thing, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't that long ago since he deleted it. Something irrelevant, tries to get the last say, feels significant in all the spare time he has in the world. The definition of an uneducated narcissistic hater. I'm pretty sure this applies to a lot of you watching this, and it's happened in a similar fashion one way or another. And all I need to say is, if you're gonna boo on someone's opinion and then shame and blame them, how about creating a constructive argument first and understand how that person sees it, because it's a freaking opinion. Or better yet, accept it and move on with your life instead of constantly breathing down that person's neck with fuck yous and your wrongs. For instance, back to Paper Mario, because some of those either defending Sticker Star or Color Splash or hating on those who'd rather have the old Paper Mario games or putting us with the Sonic fanbase calling us cancerous. There's almost nothing wrong with those who like Sticker Star and Color Splash, but what I mean is, they don't get that it's not just nostalgia whores who want their game back, and that's pretty much the key. Understanding. What the ideal situation is what we're all beating around the bush. If they listened, we get a good and polished game with little flaws. The fan bases would stop being as divided as they are now, especially considering you placing us with the Sonic fanbase. Nintendo would rack in even more money than they originally planned to, less people would be pissed off, and they could just continue to build upon that. It's not just fans dissatisfied with their product. If people like and want Color Splash and Sticker Star and prefer those two, that's fine. For what it's worth though, as an avid Thousand Year Door fan, believe it or not, I have some excitement for Color Splash. The reason I love Mario and Luigi Paper Jam so much is because it's awesome and hilarious writing. And Color Splash won't be as terrible as fans let on. Color Splash's writing may be a step up from that, and Huey is definitely better than Curtsy. I can look past the story and the characters if the characters will be charming. And even if the characters are bland and reused, there seems to be more diversity in the enemy selection. Like, does anyone remember the Dino Rhinos, those dinosaur enemies from Super Mario World? They come back in here in this game, and they're basically stretching almost every main Mario character roster in this, mainly the enemies. Even if its Sticker Star improved, that means some fun actually can be held here and enjoyment. But the outcome of the whole grand scheme of things would have been so much better if they did what many of the fans wanted. See? I defended Color Splash supporters in regards to what's good and reasonably appealing, as well as the haters of Color Splash for not being as remarkable or inventive as the past Paper Marios. I understand where they stand. You can't really understand both sides of everything, I know, but some sides you have to experience yourself in order to do so. But if you do end up arguing with someone over something, try to understand where he or she's coming from, please. If not, just accept it and move on. We'd rather spend our time somewhere else than trying to throw meaningless insults back and forth. There's a bit more complexity and explanation when it comes to this sort of stuff because it goes in a little bit deeper than how I tried to convey it. But yeah, arguments, defense, offense, hatred, opinions. They can be stressful and annoying because you have to point out it's an opinion in order to not get attacked. Which is sad. It's asinine, but it's whatever. The struggles of trying to gain a following on YouTube. In regards to viewer hate and defense as well as the topics you address. Ugh. Speaking of topics and getting a following, stick around for another discussion video as a part of me celebrating 3,000 subscribers. Thank you for subbing, watching, and stay around as well as staying super.